hi everyone.
Hello.
Hi Helen. Oh, I think maybe you're coming through this time. I see something happening. Fingers
Okay.
crossed.
It's weird. It's making me like send
Yay, there you are. Yay.
yay! Oh, we're excited.
Oh, yes. Thank goodness. Okay, this is good. Well, welcome. Yes, welcome. Hi Helen, how are you?
Hey, I'm pretty good, thanks. How you doing?
It's good. Yes, thank you. I just will maybe wait a couple of minutes for people to come
Yeah.
and get ready to talk about negative cards, so-called negative cards. And Claire is going to come on in a few minutes, and she's got a, I don't know how to pronounce this deck, Italia. It's
Okay. Yeah.
I've only ever seen it written, so
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but she's got, apparently, I'm not familiar with it at all, and apparently it's got quite negative titles to it, and kind of like the Thoth Tarot. And I have a couple of
Yeah.
titles. I have a couple of Thoth cards in addition to my Rider-Waite-Smith that we could look at,
Yeah.
maybe as we go along. And
Yeah. Yeah. I've got my thought deck ready. Yeah.
yes,
It can be so troublesome. Like sometimes when people see those keywords
yes.
in a reading. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
well, exactly. I think that's actually, I mean, I would perfectly understand it if someone looked at that and said, I'm not dealing with this deck because, who wants to draw a card that says failure? So,
Ruin. Yeah.
yeah, ruin, even better. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
just forget it. Yeah. So, yeah, that's quite interesting. So,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's see now. What time are we? We've still got a minute, but I think I'll go
Yeah.
ahead and,
We started a little bit early because of we'll blame Mercury retrogrades. Um,
I know.
I wanted to make sure that it all worked.
No, it really, yeah, because Helen and I were, just to explain to everyone that's here, Helen and I were practicing just a couple of minutes ago, and I couldn't get it to work. I couldn't see, I could hear Helen, I couldn't see Helen, and so just restarting everything, trying to log into other devices. But I think we've maybe got it a little bit under control now. So yeah, we're starting a couple of minutes early. I know, exactly. Don't say that too loud.
Ah, don't jinx it, yeah.
I know, it's true. It's true. That is something that I've learned to do in living in Scotland is don't say that too loud.
Sod's law, yeah.
It's
Tristan
true.
Mercury. Yeah, exactly.
It's true. So, right. Well, we'll just sort of get going, and because this is going to be recorded, and so if anybody misses anything, yes, yes, Terry's saying Trickster Mercury. Yes, exactly. So if anybody misses anything, they can watch it later. So, hello everyone, and welcome to TABI Live. Good vibes and villains. We're going to be talking about tarot cards today that you like or don't like, which ones have a bad reputation, which ones you think are maybe unfairly vilified. And today I'm Penguin, Gwen, Tabby Secretary, and today we're talking to Helen Diamond from Occult Projects. And so I want to read a little bit about Occult Projects because it's a fantastic project. If you haven't checked out Helen's website, definitely do that. There's all kinds of amazing, amazing things there. So Helen says Occult Projects started as a fun idea for exploring the occult and the creative aspects of this area of life. Its current focus is around tarot, the famous gateway drug to the occult. That is so true. That's so true. Giving tarot readings that empower clients, and I can vouch for that. I had an amazing reading with Helen recently. And sharing knowledge of tarot to new learners and fellow tarot geeks. Occult Projects is for peaceful weirdos, which I love. That's brilliant. So welcome,
Yay,
Helen.
thank you for having me.
And something that probably a lot of you know is that Helen's been doing some videos for TABI lately. She's been making some videos about so-called negative cards. So Helen, why did you decide to start a series on so-called negative cards?
Yeah, so there's a few, I guess there's a few reasons behind it. And it started off when I first started kind of joining the online tarot communities. I've had tarot cards for like nearly 30 years, but I kept it kind of secret and kind of mainly to myself. for a very long time. But it was only, I suppose, last year really that I started like engaging more in the online communities and with TABI as well, which has been fantastic. And it kind of like there was a few things happening with that, and also in other areas, you know, you see like culture wise, that made me think that it was probably a good time to talk about this subject. So generally, like overall, I think that we have this kind of we have these different perspectives on life and on things that happen. Mm-hmm. And I think at the same time, there's this kind of raising of consciousness in a way, you know, like we look at the world and our place in it like very differently to when I first started reading tarot. And I think that's that kind of like Age of Aquarius type thing, you know, we're kind of got this kind of like added like Aquarian kind of mindset where we look at things a little bit more dispassionately. And I think that's why we're in the kind of the villain was right era when we look at like the like pop culture, like movies and TV shows from the past where we thought everything was kind of like so settled. Okay, this person was the villain, but then actually we've been reframing these ideas so that actually the villain, you know, I can see their viewpoint, I can understand them. Like a classic example, I suppose, is the Devil Wears Prada, where everybody was meant to be so clear that it was Miranda was the devil, but now everybody has a different opinion about that.
Yeah.
So I like that idea of like looking at, you know, what is the scary cards and looking at them differently. But at the same time, when I was engaging with the online communities, to go back to that, I saw there was this kind of like black and white thinking when it came to the so-called like scary cards. And it was like, it was scaring people away from tarot. And it was almost like there were, maybe people were attributing negative things to those cards. And so I think by combining this shift in kind of consciousness and shift in like how we look at these things with those kind of with new, especially like beginner readers, it can help to reframe these cards so it's not so scary for people and it's much more approachable, really.
Definitely. Yes. And I think for people who are getting tarot readings as well, you know, it's because I've done readings for people before, and you know, you draw the devil and you think, okay, I have to explain this before I say anything, before I even say what this card is. Just explain it, because you sort of anticipate that people are going to think, oh, automatically this is really bad news. So so which one do you think is while we're chatting, I want to invite everybody who's here to put in the chat which cards you think are, you know, are legitimately problematic, or you don't like them, just don't like them, really tried, but don't like them. And which cards you think are unfairly vilified, which do you think people should spend a little bit more time with? So put that in the chat and we can respond to you as we're going along. And so while everybody's thinking, Helen, which one would you say? Which one comes to mind first?
The one I kind of feel like I have a problem with, I suppose, is the Five of Cups. And I've got like that, I guess it's kind of maybe back to front here, I'm not sure, with that disappointment. So, and was it Terry saying none for scary cards? None. Oh, that's great.
That's fantastic. And there's Helen in the West says the Seven of Swords.
Seven of Swords. Yeah. So, I've actually, Seven of Swords is kind of like has a special place for me. Like I feel like this. Maybe this sounds really bad, but I think I really quite identify with the Seven of Swords. It's like that. I just feel like there's so much more you can, like, so many other ways you can look at it. Like the different lenses, the different angles, you know, like say for example with the Rider-Waite-Smith. So when I think of that particular image, it makes me think like, is that guy, okay, is he preventing a war when he's doing that? Like, is he actually maybe saving lives, you know? and okay, it may seem like an unfair advantage, but he's using his intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes we have to be maybe a little bit, I don't want to say like underhand exactly, but we have to be maybe economical with the truth,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for our own benefit, not exactly to hurt people. Sometimes it is, you know, for like everybody's benefit, like overall. Yeah. What do you think of this?
When I see the Seven of Swords, I've got it. I remember watching an episode of The Good Wife, and there's an episode. So this is for people who are not familiar with the show. It's about a lawyer, basically. She's a woman lawyer, and in this particular episode, she's leaving the company that she's in, and she's going to go starting her own company because it's time for her to do that. And so she's leaving with all of her clients.
Mm.
And that's perfectly fair, but everybody at the original firm thinks she's horrible. And they really think that she's done this morally horrible thing, even though she hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think of this card very much as a card of acting in your own interests in a perfectly legitimate way, because that's something else I think maybe some people don't like, really, is you shouldn't be thinking that much of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you have to. I think of the sevens in general as independent work, and this is sort of independent mental work.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And like another deck, I don't have it to hand, but the Tarot of the Holy Light.
Yeah,
like that
beautiful deck.
And on that Seven of Swords, on that deck, there's a fox running away with with like a couple of chickens.
Oh.
So like it could be like traditionally from the human's perspective, okay, that fox has been cunning and everything, and it's gone away with my chickens. But from the chicken's perspective, like, does it make much difference?
Yeah,
And
it's true.
yeah, and the fox's children, like, they're going to be happy. So yeah, it's all about like the perspective, I suppose. Yeah, with that card.
Yeah, it's true. Let's see. So Janine says Seven of Swords, walking away from chaos. That makes sense too. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
Terry says Seven of Swords is an Aquarian card. So Terry, how do you think that, if it, being an Aquarian card, how does that affect your interpretation of it? Because I guess it's an air card, and so it's thinking, and that's what the Thoth one is. I don't know if I actually took that one out, but Thoth is Seven of Swords is futility, which is, I interpret as thinking about things too much,
Like
and you need to
yourself.
stop thinking about things. Just do something now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Moon in Aquarius.
And then Aquarius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
sending love
Aquarius is,
to the Seven of Swords. Yes, we're beating up on the
yeah.
Seven of Swords.
I suppose Aquarius is can seem a little bit like distant in kind of um, one-to-one scenarios, but they're thinking of the group. They're thinking of like humanity or the group as a whole. So it's like that bigger picture kind of thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's a good example actually, because when you first see this card, you think he's being sneaky, but I don't know. It reminds me of something. I don't know if this is going to be jumping ahead at all for things that you wanted to say, but it reminded me of something you were telling me once about how we interpret the cards according to kind of our social expectations, whereas when this deck was published, which I think was it 1906, 1909, maybe they didn't look at this guy's face and think he was sneaky, because it's not really a malicious look.
Mm-hmm.
So
He's not
yeah, he's
poisoning
being assertive. Yeah.
anyone. Yeah, he's not poisoning anyone.
No.
He's not laying traps.
Yeah.
He's removing weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true, Janine. He's being assertive about his needs. That's how I interpret this card,
Yeah.
basically. So, okay. So another card. Anybody else want to now see? I think there were some other comments.
Yeah, I think someone said the sun.
Ooh, interesting.
Let me just scroll back. Oh, is it Marion says the sun? I'm really curious about that. Why do you not like the sun?
I have to find my son.
Oh, okay. It shows up as a narcissist for me, and I also
Oh.
burn easily.
Burn easily in the sun, yeah.
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 That's interesting. That's the next. I can understand that, like when cards that you think are the positive, or they're seen as traditionally like positive cards, but you have like a weird relationship to it.
Hmm.
Now that's one where I think personally, I think when that happens, there's some aspects of the card that's like you know, how it kind of like affect how it kind of how you identify it with some aspect like inside of you.
Hmm.
And we have, so if you have your tarot decks, we'll do like an exercise later on
Okay.
about exploring like another way of looking at a card that you have an issue with. And I think that would be be really good to see like what would come up for the sun. Because I used to have a problem with the star card, and
Oh,
everybody seems to love that card.
yeah.
But I thought, yeah. How about yourself, Gwen? Has there been like any positive card that you thought was like a load of rubbish?
Just a little bit too much. Um, I can't think of one actually. I can't think of a positive card. I mean, sometimes with the sun, it's interesting. Sometimes with the sun, I actually have trouble interpreting it because it's just so much sun, and I don't know if it's maybe because I'm a Leo, and I just like blinding. It's like so much yellow in here, but I don't know. It's I kind of draw a blank sometimes when I look at the sun, and I just think, well, yes, I
Mm,
think.
mm,
So it's yeah, it is interesting. I do have trouble interpreting it.
yeah. Ah, so Marion,
So, yep.
the sun also shows up as someone who's been suffering from depression and having that outward happy state of mind.
Oh,
Which is
interesting.
really
Yes.
okay, yeah. So it's like they're just putting a happy face on things.
Mhm.
Yeah. And not really doing the work, not really
Mhm.
doing like the shadow work.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think that's really great. It's like
Mhm.
there's no this goes to show as well. Like there's no cards that are all positive or all negative.
Mhm.
Every card has its light and shadow. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Let's see. Tarot with John says, I struggle to know what to do with this one sometimes. Yeah, I get that. I had a problem with that as well. So yes, this is going to be good. We're going to have lots of cards for the exercise there.
So yeah, it says the world card is challenging for me, especially when we were talking about growth, and it appears halfway. Interesting. Yeah, it is actually. It's quite interesting, isn't it, with cards that you expect to be quite positive. And it's funny
Mm,
because with the world card, that's another one that, like the sun, I don't really get a lot from it. So maybe that's I need to kind of clarify,
yeah.
how I'm approaching the cards. So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Who else? What other? Does anybody have another card? I can find. I've only pulled out sort of negative cards if anybody wants. But if we want to talk about how annoying a positive card is, we can do that too. Just let me know.
Yeah. Um, yeah. And I suppose I should say as well, like the purpose of the videos, it wasn't trying to neutralize any of the cards
Hmm.
in any way.
Hmm.
Because I
Yeah.
see, sometimes there's like some debates like online where people think that they're trying to just make everything positive and
Hmm.
about
Yes.
oracle cards. Like
Hmm.
it's not like that. Like sometimes a card comes up and it does have a negative meaning. Sometimes the Seven of
Hmm.
Swords can come up and it is someone is not being truthful with you,
Hmm.
or
Yes.
something to look for. But it's this kind of it's a different kind of exercises that we do with tarot nowadays because we're not looking so much at prediction. So many tarot readers, and especially in TABI as well, so that they don't really use tarot for prediction, especially not for reading for themselves, but
Yes.
it's for self-reflection,
Yes.
and it can be for advice. And it's like, what do you do when you get like the Five of Swords to come up as advice?
Oh, well,
Yeah,
yes. Yes. It's true. That's
yeah.
true.
Um, so we need to be able to look at all of the cards and, you know, kind of like, uh, what would it be in a positive light? What would it be in a negative light? Yeah,
Hmm.
done
Yes.
as something to stop doing, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I think you made a good point. Helen and I were chatting about this before, and she said that, it can be one issue can be that we just don't really want bad news. But at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of have to. It's like you were saying about Chiron, and
Yeah.
um, it can't all be good news. You get, if you have too much of a good thing, it starts to create problems.
Yeah, exactly. It's like um our life isn't, we're not meant to be happy all the time.
Hmm.
What would our life be? You know, how would we develop? How would we grow
Hmm.
if everything was perfect? And
Hmm.
I was thinking about this the other day. It's kind of really interesting, like the way how humans differ from the animal world, from the
Hmm.
animal kingdom, in terms of like our childhood and our adolescence.
Hmm.
um, we have this like super long period where we are dependent on other people, and our brain isn't like fully formed until we're in our mid 20s. And you
Hmm.
see other animals, they're born and they're like ready to go in like a matter of days. They're ready to go
Yeah.
out and fend for themselves.
Yeah.
And we're like amazingly like dependent on other people,
Hmm.
and we're very sensitive to our experiences, and one wrong look or one wrong word can inflict a wound on us.
Hmm.
And it's almost as if it's by design. And this, yeah, this was thing as well about Chiron, like when we were talking before, is in astrology, if you know about astrology, everybody has a Chiron sign, and Chiron is the wounded healer. So every person has this wound that will never heal, but the purpose of it is to learn from it and
Hmm.
to use it to help others.
Hmm.
So it's like, I suppose it's like how we look at suffering, how we look at pain. Is it a punishment, or is there an actual like higher purpose to it, that it's for other people's benefit and for our kind of growth
Hmm.
in, you know, in this life?
Yes. Yeah, so I think that's true. I've been, reading various things and keep coming back to the same point from different writers saying that, it's not great news on the outside, but it's say that you need to have this kind of suffering
Yeah.
to grow, because I think otherwise you just wouldn't really be changed. It'd be kind of like why you have to go from the fours to the fives is that the fours are nice, they're great, they're stable, blessings, generosity, on the tree of life. It's a great place to be,
Mm-hmm.
but it would just all start making a big, huge mess if you didn't move into the fives and limit that a little bit and say, okay, that's enough of that now. That's enough ice cream or
Yeah.
whatever. So yeah, I think that's a really good point, and things, do get better. You kind of have to have destruction, I guess, before you can move on. But so we've had a couple of people mention a couple of other cards.
Oh, yes.
Um, so Janine mentioned she's having a Nine of Swords day. I'm sorry,
Oh.
Janine. Nine of Swords day. So
Yeah, I totally get that. One thing I really love the Rider-Waite-Smith version of the Nine of Swords, because someone, it might have been on that Fortune's Wheelhouse podcast, where they mentioned that you can't see the tip of the swords,
mhm,
and that message is there's no point. Like there's no point to the anxiety.
mhm,
So it's kind of, it makes me think of like
mhm,
stoicism when they say like we suffer more
mhm,
in imagination than in
mhm.
reality.
Oh yeah,
And that's always,
yeah,
it's that classic overthinking.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I don't mind it though, because yes, it's true. You do. I mean, that's Janine says I don't mind it though because we have to feel the pain to move through it. And that's actually that's what I think of with the moon card. Because when I was learning tarot, and every time you read about the moon, it's always bad. Oh, fears, drama, really horrible things going on in your mind. And I never saw it because I see this card as a light shining into, what needs to be seen. And it's not always easy and may very well involve suffering because of the fears. Maybe you see your fears,
Yeah.
but I've never seen this card as a negative card.
Yeah.
Has
I love the moon card. Like I know like in older interpretations it was always kind of demonic like possessions and things. Because they're
yeah.
really like meant to be really scary stuff. But I think that's I think that's like that kind of Victorian era type thinking,
Yes.
which I think is responsible for a lot of our hang-ups. And I
Yes.
think with a lot of the cards, like we were talking earlier about like the death card I had mentioned in the death card, it's I think it's around like was it the 1900s or the 19th century? Oh no, the 19th century it would have been 18th, 19th century where we suddenly decided like collectively that death was unnatural and a terrible thing and the worst possible thing that can happen. And before that, it was seen as just a natural part of life. So for tarot, that's meant to be like a mirror of life, then it would be really, really strange to not have that card, and it would be really strange to not have like these other cards that are just reflective of what we experience and what we go through.
Yeah.
Got some really
Exactly.
interesting comments. Like there's a lot. I really like this. Let's see. Fives as advice, always a puzzle. One thing that came to mind there, fives as advice, like, there's that saying, when you go through hell, when you're going through hell, keep going.
Yes. Don't stop. Yes.
Yeah. And fives is like that halfway point. So I think like generally that's something to think of there. I gave so Claire says, I gave a fellow reader friend a reading. Some aspects were negative and actually confirmed what she wanted to know. A different querent would have had different meaning altogether. Yeah, that's really true. Like, there's a lot of people who like they want to be told one way or another. They don't want to hear like what they they don't want to hear some airy fairy stuff where it's like, oh yeah, everything's going to be fantastic. They want something realistic. And like I've had a reading like that where I think they had a crush on someone and they weren't sure whether to just give up, and the cards were saying give up.
Okay.
And she gave me really good feedback from that. She said it's not what I wanted to hear, but I needed to hear it, and now I can move on. So yeah, that's good. It's a good mindset to have.
Yes.
Let's see some other comments. I've never seen the moon card as negative either. To me, it means you have to go back to your core. Yeah, I love that. That's true, because it's about you can't really trust what you're looking at. You can't really trust your eyes. So the only thing you can depend on is your intuition or what's inside.
Yeah.
And that in the long term teaches you to trust yourself, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is interesting too about the different interpretations in different decks, because we were saying before that the Thoth deck can be a little bit off-putting, but actually I think this is a better death card. And sometimes I post with this card and people are like, oh, I love that card. And it's so pretty. It's just got these beautiful, and he's dancing, and it's very, very different. And I don't really think I don't know, it's not as, this is quite, like a lawnmower, and this to me is like cutting things free. I don't know what there's supposed to be something different, I'm sure, but I always think of this as being on a ship, and he's a captain of a ship,
Oh,
and he's steering the ship, and he's getting ready to cut loose. With his scythe there, he's getting ready to cut these things loose so they're freed.
oh, cool. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. The thought is that's my favorite version of the death card as well.
Yeah, yeah.
You mentioned with like the Rider-Waite-Smith one, there's like this ominous theme music, like do 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 do.
Yes, Darth Vader music. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
But with the Thoth death card, I kind of feel like the spiraling is like spiraling off into infinity.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's never ending. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's just a much, I think it's a nicer, I mean, I get the point, but it's, yeah, but it's nicer, I think. It's a beautiful card. I just love the colors.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Um,
so
Ian Taro says, I think I struggle with cards that are less negative, more motionless.
oh, interesting.
Eight of Pentacles and the Hierophant. Ah,
Oh,
Eight of Pentacles is
yeah.
motionless. Um, I really like the Eight of Pentacles. The Eight of Pentacles is like, to me, it is kind of like the mature student.
Hmm.
You have to kind of
Yeah.
go back to the drawing board a little bit, but you have a different perspective of how to study, what you're studying, and why, and like
Yes.
what you're doing with it. So, as someone who has been like a mature student, my approach to learning was much more involved. I was highly focused on the detail,
Hmm.
uh, and I suppose that key word we get of like prudence. You're
Hmm.
much more prudent at that stage.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. What do you think of that one?
Um, this one always reminds me of, because what I like to do is compare the Thoth deck to the Rider-Waite-Smith, because I think they both kind of diverge from one
Mm,
idea. And so I like the idea of care and the sort of protecting the new things. There's leaves, but taking one thing at a time,
yeah.
and yeah, patience and prudence. Because I think of this card as, um, yeah, you know, um, yeah, one thing at a time. I'm getting confused here with another card. I'm off. I'm off.
I love like the imagery with the Thoth Eight of
Uh-huh.
Pentacles because it looks like the leaves are they're protective over the flowers. They're like
Yeah.
not quite yet, not quite yet. We're gonna make you're on the road to perfection,
Yes.
but the sun is very bright, and we're gonna display you when you're strong and yeah, fully formed.
Yes. Yes, it's true. Yes. Janine just said the Eight of Wands is a bit meh. Always seemed like a pointless card. That's interesting. Just
Eight of
sort
Wands.
of air. There's a lot of it's windy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was like Saphira 8 on the Tree of Life?
Hmm.
Like, because we've got like a couple of people with a kind of difficulty with the eights. Like, what's that
Hmm.
kind of area? But because you know the Kabbalah better than me.
Well, the eights, it's about mental things. It's ruled by Mercury, and it's called Hod. I think that's how you pronounce it. And so it's about discernment. And so, you can see that in the Eight of Pentacles, discernment, and it's actually the sphere of magic, but also learning things. So anything associated with Mercury, communication,
Yeah.
seeing things. And so you can see like the Eight of Swords and the Rider-Waite-Smith Eight of Swords. She doesn't see, and it's a mental card, so she doesn't see in that
Yeah.
sense. So yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? And the movement of, because I mean the Eight of Wands is a Mercury card. Is it Mercury? Seems like Sagittarius has something to do with that card, but it's definitely about movement
Probably.
again and swiftness, just things. Yeah.
I always think of it like things have been stagnant, things have been really slow,
Hmm.
and then the
Yeah.
blocks have cleared, and then
Hmm.
you can get moving.
Yes.
And I think I think that I can understand why it can feel like a pointless card, because like if things aren't moving when you pull it, then
Yeah.
you're not really seeing it yet. But I think retrogrades, you know, we've had a lot of retrogrades, like major retrogrades astrologically in the last few years, where
Hmm.
there's been a lot of stuff is slowed right down. So it can feel like, you know, okay, it's talking about this movement, where is this movement? And we can feel a little bit impatient.
Yeah.
But then when it actually
Yeah.
comes, it's it's like finally, rather than just
Yeah.
instant.
Yes. Yes. Terry was saying that Saturn. So this is Saturn in Pisces, Eight of Cups, which looks pretty. Yeah, it's not so bad in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck,
Yeah.
but it's sort of two aspects of the same thing, isn't it? I mean, this is maybe it's saying, you know, if you got this card as a okay, do this,
Yeah.
and the Rider-Waite-Smith, you might think, okay, walk away. But here, you know, you might not necessarily because it's called indolence.
Hmm.
But so maybe that means leave it, but maybe it also means pick it up again. Maybe it means that you've left things too long,
Yeah.
and um, so yeah, tricky,
Yeah.
tricky the eights.
Yeah. I really like the Eight of Cups because I think it's
Hmm.
like that it's that state where um you've got like the pain of staying in a
Hmm.
situation that isn't working anymore, and the
Hmm.
uncertainty of um going out for, you know, going to something completely different. And
Hmm.
we don't really change, we don't choose that uncertainty
Hmm.
until the pain of staying is higher. So it's not, it can come up when it's like not, you know, an ideal situation, but the outlook is more positive because it's like, well, whatever it is I'm going
Yeah.
to find, it's going to be better than this. And for
Yes.
myself, I love change. I love I embrace uncertainty, so I think that's probably why I'm like,
Brave
yes,
woman.
eight cups, let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of it. Well, the next card is the Nine of Cups. So, you know,
That's
there
it.
is, I always sort of look, you know, behind and ahead. If I get kind of stuck on a card, I think, well, where is it in the progression of things? And
Mm.
so then you have the Nine of Cups next. So that's okay. But I
Yeah.
mean, what does, maybe people don't like the Nine of Cups. I've actually heard some people say with the Nine of Cups and the Rider-Waite-Smith that it's a bad thing. And it kind of reminds me of what you were saying about how maybe people are determined to make things into bad news because
Oh
it's,
yeah.
you know, I learned that as the wish fulfillment card and people saying, oh, but look, he's smug and he's, you know, he's proud and he's showing off. I thought,
Yeah.
well, okay, yeah, possibly, certainly, you know, all of that's in there, but it maybe wouldn't be my first, my
Yeah.
first interpretation of the Nine of Cups.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was first learning tarot, like the book that I have, the book that I had, and still have, it gave like the upright and the reverse meanings, and the reverse meaning for the Nine of Cups was beware of smugness, beware of being too smug. So
Interesting.
yeah, I think it's definitely, it's an aspect of that card, but
Uh-huh.
um, I wonder if people are looking at positive cards or positive cards and immediately going to like a negative interpretation, that can just be a result of like being quite cynical.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just depends on your outlook,
Yeah.
I think, as well.
Yeah. Yes, yes. Terry said he looks quite lonely, and he does, because that's, I mean, that you know, that's quite interesting. I hadn't thought about that connection before about the Nine of Cups to the Ten of Cups, because one of the messages of the Ten of Cups is that it's time to
Yeah.
share. You know, whenever you get to the tens,
Hmm.
it's you know, it's time to move on, but it's time to share. So that's quite interesting.
Yeah. I suppose it's an interesting, yeah, that journey from the 9 to the 10, because I think it's one of those things when you get older, like when you're younger, you think like, I want these certain things in my life and
Hmm.
this will make me happy. And
Hmm.
then when you get older, it's realizing like that it's about sharing, it's about, in a way,
Hmm.
like being of service to others.
Yes.
It's that kind of family community kind of
Hmm.
feeling that that is where the true fulfillment comes from.
Yes, it's true. It's a much more, yeah, mature understanding of what happiness is. You know, what kind of lasting happiness versus, I have a new book, and now I'm happy with my new book, but I won't be happy with, forever. Well, maybe. I suppose if it's a tarot book, maybe.
Yeah. Definitely.
But
Uh,
yeah,
let's see.
so
Happiness and self, I crave that. Yeah. Yes. I think that's a lifelong journey.
yes, it's true.
All
And
right.
my first, go ahead, Helen.
Oh no, I was gonna say, shall we do the exercise? Should we do the
Sure,
card?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'm just because I wonder, like, I'm not sure how long it will take, but okay, so if everybody is in a place where you can get your cards out,
Okay,
and you can get the card, whichever one it is, like a card that you have like a problem with. Um,
okay,
so I'm going to use the Five of Cups,
okay.
because yeah, I have an issue with this one. Now, just to say as well, I've stolen this, or I'm inspired by Jenna Matlin's book. Will You Give Me Reading? So it's a really lovely book, and it was this exercise that helped me to take a different look at the star cards. So instead of thinking like, what's the point, to actually I get this card now. I really like it. So the first thing you do is you get your card
Okay,
that you got an issue with, and if you have a pen and paper, great. If not, no worries. But
okay.
have a think about what are some of the words that you associate with this card. Any deck,
Okay.
yeah. If there's a particular deck that you especially hate that card, then go for it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this, because this says disappointment on it in the Thoth deck. That's why I've pulled that one up.
Okay.
This one's a bit dark here.
Okay. I'm
Okay.
going to go with the Three of Swords
Oh
because
yeah.
and I actually, image-wise, I do quite like it, but I think, the funny thing is whenever I draw it, I find myself trying to avoid it, trying to interpret it. Oh, well,
Mm.
look, it's Bina, and let's look at the colors and let's see look, a white rose, and, so I think maybe I've got an aversion to this one, so I'm going to choose the Three of Swords.
Okay. Brilliant. And yeah, and Jean's got Eight of Wands. Yeah, you got your mech card. Okay. So you've got your words that you associate with the card, even if it's just like meh.
Okay,
But
hanging on to my Eight of Pentacles.
Eight of Pentacles, yeah, absolutely. And then if you take the rest of your deck,
Okay.
and what I suppose what we're asking is, what is this card trying to tell me, or what is another way to look at this card?
Okay.
Because we want to see, like, I think that when we have an issue with the card, it's something inside of us. Like we did a Thoth Thursday, was it last month, I think? And I had pulled out lust. I didn't like the lust card.
Yes.
And the whole point of it was essentially, to cut a long story short, it was about acceptance, feeling kind of like unaccepting of my inner nature in a way. So being able to explore that, like, really helped with the cards.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Okay. So what are we asking? Are we asking anything yet?
Yeah. So what is another way to look at this card?
Well, okay. What is another way to look at this card? Okay.
Yeah. So you have your negative card and you put it aside. And you
Okay.
get the rest of the deck and you ask, what is another way to look at this card?
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
Same. Oh my god. Okay, what did you get?
Okay, so my card was the Three of Swords, and I drew the Six of Swords.
Oh.
And so it's quite interesting because they are similar in that they're sort of they're centralizing things, combining things, amalgamating things. But this one is technically you're overdoing it. And this is, perfect understanding, and everything is coming together really well, sailing away from problems, the classic meaning of the Six of Swords.
Yeah.
But then this one, and it is, I'm actually really relieved, because the way I interpret this card is don't overpick things, because it's the white rose in the middle is sort of coming apart because it's being overpicked. It's too, that's enough, that's what's causing the problem. So I'm quite glad. Maybe I'm not avoiding it as much as I thought, but that's fascinating, because I can see very easily how they're related to each other.
It's like the
Fantastic.
Six of Swords is like the long-term look at the Three of Swords.
Yes. Yes.
Moving away from drama.
Yes, exactly, because that's one of the meanings of the Three of Swords, isn't it? That you learn from whatever happened and then amalgamate that. Fascinating. Okay, we've got a couple of people here. What did you get, Helen?
Okay, so my negative card was the Five of Cups.
Right.
And it's getting a bit dark in here, sorry. And I pulled the Moon.
Oh, okay.
So and I really love that. I think that is the absolute like perfect card to get for that, because it's sort of like it's that way where, like, when with the Five of Cups, when you're feeling like bad about a situation, you can get stuck there, you can get lost there, or sometimes I can as well. And you can't see things clearly anymore. You can't,
That's
like,
true.
everything looks monstrous in a way, or things are like much more extreme than they would be if I was looking at like maybe a difficult situation more objectively. So yeah, it's like this is about when I'm feeling uncertain, I would say. Yeah, it's like recognize when your vision is distorted, not seeing things as they really are. So
yeah. Oh yeah, I like that. That's fantastic.
Very nice from the cards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Okay. Let's see what everybody else has got. Let's see. So Janine, the Knight of Cups. So there was Eight of Wands and the Knight of Cups. That's interesting. What do you think about that?
So because they're similar, aren't they? So if it's two cards that mean the same thing, maybe it's knights are swiftness. They're moving quickly, but the Knight of Cups particularly I think of as a kind of an idealistic kind of, that's interesting. It is an interesting pair. I mean, what does that mean? Because Janine, it's you that this really means something to. So what do you think?
Yeah. Okay.
Odd. Janine says that's odd. That's funny. Okay.
Yeah, I see like the knights as kind of quite rebellious. The knights are they're doing their own thing for their own reasons. They could be like, a knight could be a king in training, or he could be like a second son with no hope of like inheriting anything. So they go out on their own. Yeah, they go out on their own. So the Knight of Cups is like, I suppose, like, what I think is like connected with the Wands and Cups is like creativity, I guess. So but that is so interesting, because it's like the Eight of Wands you think is like, I don't know, I think of like as something coming to me, and the Knight of Cups you think of as someone wanting something from you. I don't know.
Yeah, well, maybe it has something to do with because the Eight of Wands is Sagittarius, and the Knights they kind of have a Sagittarius nature, don't they? The exploratory, adventurous nature. So maybe that's what they have in common? That's really
Hmm.
interesting.
A quest.
Yes, a quest,
Ooh,
Janine. You're on a quest.
you need to go on a quest. um, and let's see. So Forever Giving Love got, so their card was the World, I take it, and they got the Emperor. That is so interesting. So it makes me think of, like, I suppose the world is your world and the Emperor is you. So it's about how you look at, um, taking, like, a look at your world building, like, how
Mm-hmm.
is that going, basically, like
Mm-hmm.
the kind of world building is like what kind of comes to mind when I think of that, like, you're creating the world around you, creating your life. The Emperor um is a world builder. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think of that one, Gwen?
Yeah, no, I like that. I really like that. That's what I was thinking of because I probably said this a million times in different contexts, so I apologize to who's heard this a million times. But I think of the emperor as a distinct from a king because an emperor rules several kingdoms, and
Mm-hmm.
so you have someone like world emperor like Alexander the Great who got I think it was Alexander the Great got very upset when he realized there was nothing left to
Oh
conquer.
yeah.
you know so um, yeah, that's I can see that's the sort of common thing there. So when we're drawing this card, the second card, and that tells us another way to look at the first card. Is that right? And
Yeah, yeah.
why we don't like it?
Like, to reframe it, I guess. So to kind of
Okay,
free us from, like, our stuck meanings.
okay.
Yeah.
So maybe then with the world and the emperor, it would be to make it more personal, more, to think of the world as being less, because it is a huge card, and I think maybe that's one reason why I look at it, and there's always a ton of imagery in the
Yeah.
world, and so not always helpful to have tons and tons of things in there, but maybe that's what it is because that's if that's the similarity to think of it as more personalized,
Yeah.
the world. Yeah. So what do you think of that? Forever Giving Love.
Yeah. I'd love to know what you think of that. Um,
Oh,
I can see logic and strength in the Emperor. Uh,
oh.
let's see. Makes the Emperor energy cyclic. Yeah, like the World card is about, I think of it like graduation in some ways.
The World card.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose, when you look in, when you look through
Mm-hmm.
history, say, for example, castles,
Mm-hmm.
all the different iterations of
Mm-hmm.
castles,
Mm-hmm.
and how different they were, and uh, the different requirements,
Mm-hmm.
as a community grows, as like the state grows,
Mm-hmm.
how that influences the structures,
Mm-hmm.
and how that influences, I suppose, like the rules and the laws and the policies. Um, so it's a big task,
Mm-hmm.
really, and I suppose, like, it's pretty heavy. The world is like, there's so much, there's so many possibilities, there's so many opportunities. When we move up to the next level, you have to kind of have, I suppose, like, in a way, an emperor kind of mindset to be
Mm-hmm.
like, yes, these are my accomplishments, and this is how I'm going to carry them forward. This is what I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
do with them next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so more deliberate. Bringing in the emperor energy is
Yeah.
more of a deliberate, and because sometimes with the world it can I actually think of it as sort of a natural ending, a good conclusion,
Mm.
not necessarily something that you are actively involved in, but maybe. And so maybe that's where the emperor comes in, is to
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And to say that it's not all just happening to you, but you have, like, a very important
Mhm.
hand in it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So, Ian got the Ace of Cups. So you had the Eight of Pentacles, right?
Mhm.
Ace of Cups.
Yes.
Um, Yeah, it's okay. So it's the emotional center. I often think of the Ace of Cups as like your emotion, your source, your inner
Mm-hmm.
source.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, like going back to the mature student analogy,
Mm-hmm.
um, to kind of, yeah, because that's kind of what's coming to mind, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
is when you're going into like, like a period of study, it's because of like again for completely different reasons, because there's something that speaks to you, to your
Mm-hmm.
heart, kind of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And when you feel that it's necessary to be prudent about something, it's because of, I suppose, there's a need for like emotional security.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me, that's what it makes me think of. Like, what do you think of that one?
Yeah, well, I was when you were saying of the kind of emotional source, I was then thinking of it as flowering
Yeah.
in the Eight of Pentacles. Because I think of it, I do think of that as it is it's a beautiful card. It is about create, it's sort of the joy of just putting the last touches on something beautiful and
Yeah.
expressing, finally being able to express that. So, and
Yeah.
that is quite interesting because with the Pentacles, I don't, you don't often think of, you tend to kind of classify them, like say the Pentacles are only Earth, and but
Yeah.
it's quite interesting to bring that ace,
Yeah.
that beautiful ace into it.
There's like an emotional center to
Yeah,
work, to, yeah, that's motivating it.
yeah.
Let's see. Yes. Yeah, Ian agrees. Brilliant. Um, Eight of Pentacles and Ace of Cups. Do what you love and love what you do. I love that. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And Claire had the Hierophant and the Hanged Man. Um, I love the Hierophant. That's
Hmm.
one of my favorite cards, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose you got the Rider Waite Smith ones. I love the Thoth one, I suppose, more. But
Hmm.
the Hierophant is like, the Hierophant. I can see a connection definitely between the Hierophant and the Hanged Man, because they're both like initiates.
Hmm.
The Hierophant is, um, joining this kind of maybe spiritual institution, and there are traditions and there are rules and there are things that they need to learn and to get to grapple with, and it shouldn't just be rules for the sake of rules or conformity for the sake of conformity, but because they help to focus your mind, to focus your
Hmm.
consciousness, so that you can have that link with, so that you can feel that connection to the divine.
Hmm.
And the Hanged Man, the way I always kind of see that card is like, aside from like the kind of transition and the surrender, like the reason behind it all, the Hanged Man has gotten into that position, um, mindfully, like with purpose. It's not being put there, or that's not how I
Hmm.
see it anyway. He's
Hmm.
gone willingly,
Hmm.
um, and in this very kind of like intricate like setup, um, because it's going to transform him. It's going to, because again, it's like a spiritual, it's like a ritual, really.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it enhances his connection with the divine. So
Hmm.
I love that pairing. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'd love to know what you think of that, Claire. Um, yeah. Okay. Uh, Terry, is that it's not always about perfection. You let yourself to have the flow. Oh, okay. I'm not sure if that's the Eight of Pentacles or the Hierophant, but both could work. Let's see. Are there any others? I wonder if that's all of them. Hmm. Can you see any more? I can't see any
Yeah.
more.
I don't think so. I think that's it. If we've missed anybody, could you comment in again so we could see it?
Uh,
Claire says,
Claire,
"Thank you very much for her thought." Yes, yes.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? I think the Hierophant is it's one of those cards in the Rider-Waite-Smith that a lot of people just take against immediately because it really has these connotations of a rigid hierarchy and a
Yeah,
particular kind of hierarchy that has been,
yeah,
really hard on people.
yeah, yeah,
So,
that's it.
but the Hierophant in the Thoth Tarot is, it's the new age coming in with a lot of
Mm.
different imagery, and he's just a nicer looking guy. He's, I don't know if I can find it again. He's just nicer looking, isn't he?
Yeah, and the the
Oh,
the woman in front of him and the creatures around him
yeah.
are they're not like supplicants.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's nice.
Ah,
It was for Eight of Pentacles too. So,
okay. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. I like that.
yeah. So
Cool.
Terry, did you pick a card? I don't know if there's or maybe you said there's not one that particularly
Oh,
bothers you. Maybe, I don't know if we missed. Um, but yeah, that's really interesting. I do that actually myself in readings. Sometimes if I draw a card and everything's fine and maybe there'll be one and I think I don't know where this fits in, and so I'll ask, can I have another card that means the same thing?
hmm.
And it always helps. So that's a good trick, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I do it kind of. I don't like to clarify too often, but when I do,
Hmm.
I usually pull three cards,
Hmm.
and it's like, what does this card mean?
Hmm.
What does it not mean? And
Yes.
then a third card for advice, and
Yes.
that always clears it up.
Yes. I do that kind of thing with stalker cards.
Oh yeah,
you
yeah,
know, what does it mean? What do you not mean? What do you want me to do? What do you not want me to do?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Give me another comment on this. Yeah,
Yes, exactly. Details, please.
yeah,
So yeah, it's quite interesting. It's interesting how you get different imagery in different decks, and that really makes a huge difference.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So one thing else I just wanted to make sure that you got the chance to say this is because you mentioned um, we were chatting about. I know you already said something about how historically, people viewed death quite differently, but just putting it in the context of, for example, not just the Rider-Waite-Smith,
Mhm.
but all tarot decks, and how um, maybe we see all of these things, like maybe that, because if we see the tower now, I
Mhm.
don't think anybody really likes to see that, maybe, or maybe some people do because
I
it's
like
a
the
freeing
tower.
thing, but yeah.
It's not always good, but I like to see it.
Yeah, because you like change, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I like to think I'm going to be struck with um, enlightenment or something like that.
Yes, well, a divine revelation. Yeah, because
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, I think they can be quite confusing, can't they? Sometimes they mean quite different things because the tower can be a really good thing. It can be, I have a great idea and it
yeah,
just changes everything and I'm going to have to start from scratch. And that's not even a bad thing. It just means that everything you've built up has to go,
yeah.
which is
And
fine.
it came up for
Yes.
me. Well, it came up in a reading I did just the other day. This was another aspect of like looking at the cards differently. I suppose when you're reading about like what's a strength, what can be a strength for someone, and you
Hmm.
get like a negative card. So like this, the tower came up
Yeah.
as a good thing.
Hmm.
What is the strength of character? And it was that they saw through people's lies and subterfuge, and
Oh,
they had no
yeah.
patience for people kind of dancing around things. They'd say,
Hmm.
yeah, I just want to get to the point, just get to the point. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
very tower, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah,
That's a great strength.
yeah.
That's a fantastic strength. Okay, well, I guess it's half past. So I don't know if anybody has anything else. Let's see, Terry says the tower feels like Uranus breakthrough. Yes, I love
Yes.
change, but put up with an awful lot until. Yes, that's true. I do too. I fight it.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And then, yeah, and then it's not. So, yes. Well, thank you very much, Helen.
Yay! Thanks for having me. It's been really fun.
This
I feel
is,
like we could talk all night on this.
I know it's true because there are so many different cars to talk about. Well, we'll do this again. We can do this again, and we can talk about cars from different perspectives and have another exercise. That was fantastic. If that's okay with you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all good. We can revisit it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for coming and thanks for taking part. And we'll see you in the next TABI Live, which is there's definitely one at the end of September. I'm not sure if there's going to be one in the middle of September, but we will let you know for sure. So thanks everyone. See you soon.
Thanks,
Okay.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.